Hello friends, welcome back to Learn with Musa. We will continue understanding more about REST APIs. In this tutorial, we are going to focus on HTTP request body. So friends, we understood that a request is made up of four things. Let's recap those very quickly. They are the endpoint, the method, the headers, and the request body. In the previous episodes of this series, I explained about API endpoints and about different API methods. If you haven't watched them yet, please watch them first. The links are in the description box or at top right corner of this video. So friends, what is left for us is to know about the request body. Let's dig into it. The request body contains the information you, the API consumer, want to send to the server. This option is only used with POST, PUT, or patch requests. It's the data or the message that the client want to send to the server. Client might want to send certain information to upload to the server database, or the client might want to update some existing information at the server database. For all these kind of requests, it's critical that clients send such information along with the request. Such information will be embedded in the request body and can be sent to the server with either POST request or PUT or patch request. We also need to understand that the server need not to accept all types of body data being sent by the client. The server-side logic will decline if clients send invalid type of data through the request body. This can happen if your app try to interact with a third-party service API. For example, if a client sends a JSON data with tags defined not according to the schema, or when a mandatory field is missing in the JSON body, such request from client will not get succeeded and server will consider it as an unprocessable entity. All valid types of request body will be accepted by the server and processed. To give an example, assume you are working on an employee management portal. This portal is used to insert a new employee whenever a new employee joins the company. So as a company admin, you insert all the details of a new employee in a form and try to save it in the system. At that time, the portal might be using a REST API and send the employee information to the database. The form data submitted by the user will be converted to a JSON. Developers either use a third-party library or write any programming script like a JavaScript to convert form data to JSON, and that gets submitted along with the request. For example, it might be using an endpoint that look like this, the one I am showing in the screen, and passing the request body as something like this. So the server-side backend can understand this body content and pass it to save into the database system successfully. Same thing would be done for any employee details update or delete action as well. Similar to the request body, we have response body as well. And you can imagine what it is. It is the response content that being sent back from server by the API to the client. Your API almost always has to send a response body, but we know that client don't necessarily need to send request bodies all the time, as we know that the client send it only for POST, PUT, or patch types of requests. From the picture shown in the screen, you can see how a request and a response share a similar structure and composed of a body. So friends, let's get into the demo now. I'll use the GitHub API endpoints itself to demo about sending body along with the request. So I'll use post and patch type of requests, and I'll send the body and see how resources are getting created at the server end here at the GitHub API end. So in the last video, I have demoed about creating a repository using Post, right? I hope you have seen that. Let's quickly do that again here just to stick with the concepts. So I have here my GitHub account opened here. So you can see that I just refreshed it and you can see that I have only two repositories present here. So I'm just going to create a new repository first with Post request. Then I'll update it with a patch request. Along with these two requests, I'll send a request body so that you can see that resources are getting created as well as getting modified. So let's get into it. So again, I'm going to use curl to act as a API client. So I want to use post and I'm going to send a request to api.github com. This is going to be the API endpoint. So to create a request, you have to send user repose, then authenticating myself with this particular user ID, and I have to send a body. Since I'm using Windows 10 and CMD, I need to escape the double quotes here. So I'll use slash here. So you are already aware of it. I hope you have tried this at your end, because when you try, when you practice it, you will get thorough with the concept. So I really suggest you guys practicing this if you are new to learning this concept. So just repo. So that's the name of my repo. I'll use other fields like description as well. Later on, I'll try to uh, update this description with a patch request. So just a repo. So I'll use another field called private to mark it as a public repo. I'm just passing it false. So since I'm using CMD, I need to escape my double quotes here. So let me quickly use this. So yes. So, okay, so I have used the JSON body here. So let me press enter. This asking me to enter the password, bad credential for some reason. I'm sorry for the, let's use. So yeah, so it has accepted it. Now it has got created a repo called just repo. Let's refresh GitHub account and see it's reflecting or not. Yes, it's reflecting, and you can see that there is a description called just a repo also given here. So that is how post requests work, and we know that to the post request you have to send a request body. Now let me use a patch request to update the resource name, that is the repository name. So I'm gonna use patch repo. So for patch requests you have to use a different endpoint. You don't have to really remember these endpoints because we have the API documentations given, right? So all the API service providers give an API documentation. You can just go there and read it. So the API endpoint for updating patch is nothing but repos. Then you have to use the username and the repo name. So our repo name is just repo. That is what we have created just 1 minute back. So what's the name that I wanted to use? So I wanted to use just a repo one. So this is the name I'm going to get updated. So description just a repo for the tutorial. So this is how I'm going to update it. So let's see whether patch request is gonna work here or not. So again, I have to enter my password. Yes, so it has given a response, and you can also see that it got updated to just repo one. Let's refresh this GitHub account and see whether it is reflecting or not. So when I refresh, you can see the repo name got updated, and you can also see that the description also got updated here, just how we have given the body to the API endpoint. So friends, this is how we send request body along with the request endpoints. So I hope you got the idea. So next what I'm going to use is a delete request method. So I just wanted to delete this resource. So with the delete, you don't have to necessarily send a request body. so I don't really need sending request body here, so I'll just delete that. So just for you to be clear that there is a delete request also. So here purposefully I'll send just repo as the resource name here, but we have already renamed into just repo one, right? So let's see whether GitHub is giving the right response or not. So I will enter my credential. So you can see that the kind of response that it gives is, it says that this particular repo has been removed it because we renamed it, right? So next, let me give a valid resource name. I'll also add a verbose tag just to read what is happening, what kind of a response it is giving, response code it is giving, etc. So when I enter, you can see it is giving 204 not content. That means this particular repository resource has been deleted and GitHub is returning you a 204. 204 is basically for when no content or no resource is present. So this is a very valid one. So let's refresh this and see whether it is reflecting or not. So now we can see that that particular repository got deleted. So my main intention was about showing you guys how we can send a request body. So when we are sending a request body from an application, or when a user key in certain information in a form data and those informations are getting converted into a JSON body, application will not insert this kind of slashes, right? So it will look something like this. So the valid JSON body will look like this. So since it is a JSON, all the fields has to be with a double quote. So just a repo, then it will be separated with a comma. So description, typo. So yeah, some XYZ or something. So this is how we basically send the JSON body. So I hope you are clear with it. I suggest you practice it so you will be thorough with it. I'll also show you about another API, popular social media site called Twitter. So everyone use Twitter, right? So what I wanted to show you is that we have our Twitter web app, right? So I wanted to show that how web app is depending upon the Twitter APIs to do certain critical functionalities there. So let me open my Twitter here. So I just wanted to give you idea that there are APIs behind the screen. So if you are doing certain action from Twitter, it's the API does the actions for you. So this is my Twitter account. So if you want, you guys can follow me. You can just search for me and you can follow me. So in Twitter, we have these badges in left side, right? Badges indicates the notifications, and one of the notification badge you can see here, and it is showing I have two unread notification here. So if I try to go to my browser developer tools, you can see that how Twitter is sending all this kind of request here. So you can see that I'm not refreshing it. Twitter is automatically sending all these requests here. So if I try to filter those requests, or if you go there, you can see some of the requests like badges. So this is an API request. So you can see that this is the API endpoint that Twitter is hitting here. Twitter UI is sending the request automatically, not even a user is sending it. So there might be some JavaScript request or something present there, and Twitter is sending this automatically. So I'm just capturing with developer tools. Yeah, I'm planning to have a dedicated tutorial for developer tools where you can get more idea about it. Now, only the fundamental thing that I'm trying to say is that the UI application is sending a request to API to get certain data back to UI. So it is sending to this particular API endpoint, and you can see the kind of response it is giving. So it is giving a response count of 2, and that is what UI is displaying here. So I'm not going in detail to it. Next, I also wanted to show that we send statuses, right? We tweet, right? So when we tweet from web app, what happens behind the screen? So let me tweet something like just a test, and let's see what is gonna happen, or who is actually doing that work, who is actually updating my statuses. It's nothing but API. So let me tweet this. So I'm clearing all my previous one. So when I tweet, you can see that some request is happening here. So you can see that there is a request API called this one. So this is the guy who is doing the real work here. So you can see that request headers like this. So here the content type that we have learned in the previous tutorial, it is sending a request content type of application form data. So you can also see that it is sending all this data here, like you can see the just test here, right, and the kind of response it is giving. So you can see all this information, like you can see what kind of status it got updated, everything. So whatever we do from UI, everything is sent along with the API, and the API is doing the real work here. And yeah, so even if I delete my tweet, it will be another API. So let me delete my tweet and see. Yeah, I'm deleting it. Then you can see that there is a API endpoint called destroy. So here you can see that it has sent this particular, it has hit on this particular endpoint and it is deleting it. Okay, so this is how basically API works. So I hope you guys got the idea that how basically API is useful for developing modern software applications. So UI can interact with API, UI can hit on any particular API endpoint, and it can send the body along with it. So I hope you got some idea here. So guys, hit on this application, try to learn from it, practice it, so you will get more ideas. So if you have any doubts, or if you want some clarification, you can always put your comments below this video. I'll try to clarify it. Okay guys, thank you for watching this demo. I know that it has been a very quick one, but I hope you got some idea. Thank you guys again.